questions as we go through this and comments and things like that. But I guess we're broadcasting now, are we?
Yeah, we're live talking about a subject we don't normally talk about. To let us know whether you can hear us, whether you can see us, because we are doing something crazy here, streaming across the multiverse.
Across all of the internet. We're screaming here. It's streaming. Screaming. No, we're not screaming, but we're streaming across all platforms. So we're here on YouTube, on Instagram,
and we're on TikTok. TikTok as if we're not looking you in the eye. Don't worry.
Apologies.
Baby Yoda is looking you in the eye.
You can look at Yoda, you can look at the Stormtrooper up there, but big warm welcome to all of you. And it's going to be great to hang out, and it's a really timely live, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's not. This is something that we don't often talk about, do we?
Yes, because we want to talk about relationships, spiritual awakening, inner work, and how that inner work transforms relationships. And we want to stay away from the spiritual cliche of divine union, twin flame, soulmate. We just want to give you a really grounded outlook, because we've been together for how many years now?
Since 2011. So
15
years we've been together now. And again, a lot of you will know us as being together, and
some of you will know us separately.
So, we've got a lot of time in the game, really, and we've got a lot of insight and perspective, we can share with you, because again, we don't broadcast our relationship as such. We don't really talk about it at all. It's a private thing. This is our private life. But we've got some insights that we can share with you, just how we navigated going back, first of all, the times that we first got together, and then going through this awakening and the tough stuff that we've been through, and the energetic work that we've done together, and the difference that that's made in our lives. And we just think that it's a sort of a grounded perspective that some of you might draw inspiration from.
Yeah, and especially this is gonna be useful for you if you perhaps have recently spiritually awakened and your partner isn't quite on board with all of that, because very often this is a normal thing. It's like, we can go into the realms of spiritual fantasy where you manifest your ideal partner, or you kind of like all of a sudden you meet your twin flame. But I would say, from experience working with thousands of clients by now, the most typical scenario is that people are in a relationship, whether this is a divine relationship, whether this is a standard relationship, whether it's a good old marriage. People are just in a relationship. Maybe it's more casual, and then one of them awakens and the other one not necessarily awakens. Let me know if that's something that happened to you. I would be very, very curious how it panned out. If you have perhaps spiritually awakened, maybe you feel like your partner is not quite on board with all the kind of insights, with all your woo, do let us know.
How does that resonate? Let us know across the chats. I'll have a look. Thank you for people loving the Star Wars art behind us. I know it's fantastic, isn't it? I'm a big Star Wars fan. What can I say?
Yeah. So,
but if this resonates, let us know.
Yeah, and maybe also let's do a little kind of like how would we say, a little poll. If you are single, put 1. If you're in a relationship, put 2. And maybe put 3 if it would be what
3 if it's complicated.
If it's complicated.
If it's complicated, put 3. And
so at least we know whether we're talking to singles, whether we're talking to couples, and whether we're talking to people perhaps.
Because we can share our story as well. And for some of you, you'll draw inspiration hopefully from this. But it's not been easy by any stretch of the imagination. But it's the most important thing is that there's energetic synergy, and we'll be talking about energetic synergy as we go through this.
Just looking here, what the hello beautiful souls. I can't see any.
We've got 2s answers going on here. Let's have a look here. We've got 2s, we've got 1s, yeah.
We've got mostly 2s. One person here says, happened to me. We're in the transition of separation. I'm really sorry to hear that. but maybe not all is lost. So 3, okay, it's complicated. We don't have any beautiful singles here. Let me know if you are single and ready to mingle.
Single and ready to mingle.
Yeah,
with
us.
We were going to avoid the cliches, weren't we?
But since it's kind of the date is cliche,
Single and ready to mingle.
I think, where did I hear it? We were watching some
goodness
old-fashioned
me.
show.
I don't know. Was it some dating show back in the day? Or
I think we were watching something really funny and old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we do have a range. Married, my soulmate, but in love with somebody else. Ooh, that's definitely 3. That's a firm. It's complicated. Okay, 1. Okay, we do have a single here. Great. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more, how this whole thing pans out, because no, we're not going to go live with you guys.
Don't request us to go live and join anything. We're not doing that.
We already coupled up.
Exactly. We're not looking to mingle, honestly. So.
Maybe we'll send the wrong signal.
Yeah,
so this is going to be a light-hearted chat, even though we're going to talk about some serious stuff.
Yes, you're going to get a lot of value from
so
this.
How it most often happens is very often one person in a relationship awakens first. And typically it's a woman. And that's what happened in our relationship. So now, that does not mean that Aeron wasn't spiritual all his life. He absolutely was. He's always had, since we've known each other, I've always had my light languages, and Aeron's always had his third eye open.
I could see us getting married.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Maybe
I know that I was trying to scare her off, but this was like, how long into it? Like
2 weeks.
Something like that. And I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I just said, look, I can see us getting married. I can see, and I felt like it was solid. Thankfully, she didn't run for the hills, and thankfully she didn't run off, and it didn't scare her off. No. But I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it was like, and he, not even that he saw us getting married, he saw us actually getting older together. He saw us, our life being together, such as me wearing your t-shirts in the morning. Yes. Which has happened historically. Doesn't happen so much
in 15 years. It probably has by now. Yeah. At least once. Yeah.
So that's basically it. So, but the first, just to give you a bit of a background story. So we met for the very first time, 2011. Aeron's just come out of a very long-term, quite turbulent relationship, and I have come out of a short-term and quite a turbulent relationship too. I wasn't married before. Aeron had been married before, and we met in the Netherlands. We met right in the middle of the red light district in Amsterdam, in a Christian hostel called the Shelter. I know there's some Dutchies who are joining us here. You can check it out. It's right by what's called Outmarket.
Yeah, it's called Shelter. That was the place that the union happened, where we met for the first time.
So let's paint the picture how it happened. So I was at the very last year of my Erasmus student exchange, and I was volunteering in this Christian hostel just to spend a cool month in Amsterdam. And I remember one of the other staff members from this hostel brings me to the communal dining area, and we're chatting. It's all kind of like walkable, the old part of Amsterdam. You can't really drive there. So it's been she came with a bike, with my wheelie suitcase with all my worldly possessions. And she's chatting, and she's saying, we're about to have a dinner for all the staff members, so you're going to join us. Everybody will be together. There's actually a Polish guy there called Sebastian, and so you probably have something in common. So I meet all the staff members. I walk into this communal room. We're all having dinner, and I meet this guy who looks very familiar to me, and I'm like, I bet that's Sebastian. I bet that's the Polish guy. No, it was the Welsh guy. He felt familiar from other lifetimes.
That's the thing. And for me, so I just want to sort of frame this correctly. It's, I wasn't religious. I've never been religious at all. And the reason that I was in the hostel to begin with, I was in Amsterdam. I was in the Netherlands for work. So I used to work as an electrical contractor, and I got a job through an agency working at a data center in near Schiphol, which is the airport. And I was responsible for my own accommodation. So the cheapest thing as a contractor is to find a hostel. So I went to the first hostel that I could find, and it turned out, unbeknownst to me, and it was a party hostel. So I was in a 15-bed dormitory, and I was trying to get to sleep because I had work the following morning, and there's people crashing into the room, as you can imagine, at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get much sleep. So that I lasted probably 3 days at that hostel, and I was like, this is going to drive me crazy. I need to find somewhere quiet. And so I was just wandering aimlessly around Amsterdam. And I remember walking down this alleyway, and this sign caught my eye. And I was like, wow. And I saw a shelter. I was like, I wonder if that's a hostel. It seemed quite quiet down here. So I went inside and I said, is this a hostel? And they said, yeah, this is a hostel. I said, I just need a bed. I just need one bed for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, something like that. They checked the book. Yes, we've got spare room. Fantastic. I checked in and they said, this is a quiet hostel. I said, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then what happened was I was working at the data center. That job finished, and then I was looking for my next role, whether it was in Netherlands or back in the UK or whatever it was. And there was one of the staff members came up to me and said, oh, we've got a program here. And I was like, okay, what's the program? Well, we can offer you free accommodation and free breakfast and free food. And the only deal is that in exchange for that, you've got to come to a Bible study meeting first thing in the morning. And you've got to take on like a cleaning position. You've got to help to clean up. And I was like, well, that sounds like an okay deal. I'm getting free accommodation. They're going to feed me. And I'm not spending money while I'm looking for money. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so it was during that period, then Riya turned up. She saw me through the window, and that's where we met.
And I remember this first meeting when he invited me to go out. I actually thought that I invited you out, but it wasn't the case.
Definitely me, I remember.
Yeah, he was actually having a cigarette back in the day.
That's when I used to smoke. Naughty boy back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, he was having a cigarette and we were just chatting and you invited me out and then the rest is history. Mm-hmm. But let's fast forward to some very standard relationship. Nothing like, it's not like the heavens open and the light codes glue over our hearts and our souls split in two. That sounds like
like a telenovela.
Like some romantic Latino song that we hear on the radio. No, it wasn't like that. It was very, very down to earth. But it was kind of love, maybe not at first sight, but pretty much almost.
There was a depth to it immediately.
Since then, we have obviously, as Aeron is an Akashic Records expert, and we've been to the Akashic Records many times, we've always had relationships together. Not always romantic, to be fair. Very often we were brothers. We were, even in one lifetime, we were monks at the same monastery.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were evil sorcerers in another lifetime. We were Roman legionnaires in one lifetime together, fighting like arm in arm. But there was one characteristic that we've seen throughout all these lifetimes together. We've always had each other's back. It was always like a very...
Always on the same side.
Yeah,
basically.
So it wasn't some kind of like, push and pull.
Adversary or anything like that.
But we did not know that for the first however many 10 years of our relationship.
When was it that you started meditating?
I started meditating quite early. I would say so I started doing all the kind of like, manifestation stuff around 2014, started reading Neville Goddard's book, etc., etc. But when we had a very stressful business in 2017, we had few different business interests, but one of my business partners was quite awakened and she recommended that I meditate. And I didn't know how to start, but I started meditating just to clear my mind in 2017. And slowly that has started kind of getting me on this path of mindfulness and spiritual awakening in about 2019. Now, what happened then? And this is what is relevant to all of you who perhaps think like, but I'm in 5D, my partner is in 3D. What do I do? Well, this is what I did. First of all, I did probably what most of you try to do, is to try to get your partner on board. I don't know, anybody here does that? Okay, let's try meditating
I was
together.
quite stubborn. I have to be honest, and I'm saying this now as somebody, you know, I can be totally humble and vulnerable about it. I was totally stubborn back then, full of pain and trauma. I didn't like being told what to do. And Riya was like, you need to meditate. I was like, God, I don't want to meditate. I don't want to sit there and what am I doing? Just closing my eyes and going into space. Like, what the heck? And so I was just happy that Riya was happy. And it was just sort of later on that I started to develop an interest in it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I remember there's one particular, there was a few instances, a few times we were trying to meditate together, and Aeron, with his open third eye, his consciousness was just galloping around the quantum field, and you didn't like it.
No, and so just to frame this for everybody watching on all the different platforms here, my third eye, if you want to say that, I've been born with, I know now, I didn't then, but I know now that I've got quite a strong spiritual connection within my birth chart. It's something that I was born with. My third eye opened. I went to spiritual development classes when I was 20. And
way before we met.
So we met when I was 31. Yeah. I'm 46 at the end of this month. But back when I was 20, I went on spiritual development classes. And it was a powerful spiritualist medium who was my mentor, became my friend then, quite well known. But he was, you know, my friend to me. And he basically took the group through exercises which opened me up to this world of spirit, giving messages, tarot cards, this kind of thing. But back in the day, I couldn't control it. It was like when it switched on, it was like all the TV stations and the radio stations were trying to come through at the same time. And I felt like I was having a mental breakdown. And it scared me, to be honest. I couldn't, you know, you've got all of this invisible world trying to come through. And some of it's really scary, like it feels scary. And I kind of consciously just pushed it away. And I went, oh, I don't want this. I just want to live a quote unquote normal life and do normal things. And I kind of pushed the whole spiritual path away from me. This was 26 years ago. But I've always had the gift. I've always had the ability to be able to open up. So
like seeing us getting married when we were 2 weeks into
or controlling Wi-Fi. Do you remember that in the Manchester flat?
Oh yeah,
I used to control Wi-Fi with my mind, basically, and it was just something that I could do. So you know, like boost a signal. This was, when was that? 2013.
Oh, 2012.
2012 it was. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, we rented a flat near Old Trafford in Manchester, and I remember telling Riya years later, you know, I used to strengthen the signal with the Wi-Fi and help it with my consciousness. And, you know, that's just one of the things. But basically, it was later on, through meditation and stuff, that things really started to come online.
But at the beginning, there was resistance. And this is the first, I suppose, lesson. Because I can see here, Alejandro says, my partner supports me, but I can see that she's a bit worried about it. Because very often it's like, oh, what's this kind of whole strange things that you're doing? Helen here says, my husband has so much gut issues, I keep suggesting meditation. I think there is very important message for me, if that's where you are, is that, and this is going to sound unorthodox, and this is going to sound probably contrary to the common narrative. Your partner doesn't have to be spiritual or conventionally spiritual, because I believe that everybody is already spiritual, and your partner, who may be very logical, very practical, could already be as spiritual as it gets. It's just, don't think that your partner has to be into, you know, crystals and grids and essential glossary. You like crystals. You always have some in your pockets.
I've always been drawn to little crystals. I've always liked those, but I wasn't overtly spiritual.
No, you didn't want to kind of do all these kind of things.
I was quite resistant.
And I remember that was something that I had to learn first. It's like not to push. Just kind of leave everybody's spiritual process to themselves. And that was one of my first lessons. And actually, it was basically, this is a very important message. If you're now in this position, please, if you can, don't throw the baby with the bathwater.
No.
Because you don't know what's around the corner. It's not like, you know, and Aeron was never into religion. I was. That's how I ended up in that Christian hostel in the first place. Where you have to convert someone, where you have to convert them to your way of being. This is not how open-minded energetics and spirituality works. Your partner, as long as there is love, ask yourself, is there love? Is the love, is the respect? That's the two important things at this stage. You may not be at the same stage of spiritual journey. It doesn't mean that your unawakened 3D partner is not going to overtake you. Because your partner may well overtake your kind of abilities. It may blow you away. And this is exactly what happened. So I remember there's one particular occasion. I was listening to a podcast by someone who was a guy who talked about spirituality. And I remember ironing Aeron's t-shirts. And that was literally like an kind of aha moment. And I'm thinking, and I got this kind of thing, when he kind of catches up, it's gonna go whoosh. It's gonna go beyond what you have imagined. And a little bit like a month later, we traveled to Uluru together. That was on the back of my crazy download, because I was Actuarians were connecting to me, and they said follow the grid, as in the grid of the earth. I had no idea what that was, but I thought of the only spiritual place I knew under lockdowns and COVID in Australia that we could get into, and we got into Uluru. And that's when all of a sudden Aeron has reconnected with the Actuarian Council of Elders, and then we kind of caught up when it comes to awakening. But that's just the beginning. What gets important is what happens after.
What gets important is the process that then happens. So Uluru, it's such an energetically charged place. And for anybody who hasn't been, I would recommend it. Like if you're sort of open-minded and sensitive to frequency, to feel how exquisite the energy and that portal is at that sacred site in Uluru, I would just totally recommend going there just to soak in the energy of it, because we were driving for days. And if you've ever been in the outback in Australia, driving across that, you can drive for thousands of kilometers and not see anything. No phone signal, nothing. They have UHF long range walkie-talkie radios if you get into trouble and things, and people tend to stop and help one another. But there's not many roads if you look in the outback. So there's one road. We were in Adelaide at the time in South Australia, and we went on this kind of pilgrimage, if you like. Riya got this download about following the grid. And
thankfully, he was adventurous and open-minded enough to
hop on board. Let's go. Again, the world was going a bit crazy back then, and we were like, why are we staying in Adelaide? Let's go on an adventure. So we hit the road, and Riya had this download about following the grid. We're like, come on, let's go follow this grid. Let's go to Uluru. So there's one road that pretty much goes from north to south in Australia. It goes up to Darwin, Alice Springs, then Darwin. Yeah. But then as you're going from south to north, sort of halfway up-ish, there's a road, like a T-junction with a servo, with a petrol station sitting there. And you can turn off, and then there's a big straight road that goes down to Uluru. Well, I could feel the energy hours away from even being able to see it in the distance, but I could feel the energy building up. And it's almost like when we got there, we stayed there for, 2-3 nights or something. But I remember visiting it, and it's almost like the energy that was coming out of it charged up my consciousness. That's the only way I can describe it to you. It's like having a battery and plugging it into a power source. That's the only way I can describe it to you. And it's literally like my consciousness was just buzzing after we left there. And when we got to our destination, we were opening up and meditating. And that's when I connected to the Arcturians for the first time. So this was my galactic family. I now know that this is where my soul came from. I'm an Arcturian starseed. It's where the silly sense of humor comes in. That's a characteristical trait of Arcturian starseeds. And yeah, connected to them for the first time. I started studying, and this is where our journey with the galactics came from. And this segues in really nicely
to what comes next.
Which is the transformation.
Because this is the important thing. So the first thing is you don't push on your partner, not tell him what to do. Honestly, like especially, I don't know, maybe women are a little bit different, but if you tell a guy what to do, that's always going to have the opposite effect.
Dig the heels in, right? Don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
The best way, honestly, if I can give you a man's perspective, okay, and I'm not saying that every man is exactly the same, but I can speak on it being a man, right? And so typically, it's much better if I can give you a little hack here on sort of convincing men. It's much better to present things and allow a guy to come to the decision like it's his decision to do that. That's a little tip for you and a little hack. So don't push and try and convince, but just keep drip feeding and keep presenting. And sooner or later, it's like, okay, this might be a good idea. And then you go all in as the man. See?
Yeah, but then what do? You do your own inner work. And this is the key. It's like, even if one person in the partnership has healed their pain and trauma, they're not walking wounded, they've released some ancestral patterns, it transforms the whole relationship. And this is the beauty. And also, if you have children together, it will also bless the whole offspring line. But you don't have to really wait for your partner to change. You start changing your own frequency, and as if by magic, guys, as if by magic, there is, we call it the osmosis. There was a funny kind of comedy years ago, like a called osmosis. Quite a cool concept. But anyway, it's like the osmosis, because there is, apart from your personal energy field, a family or a couple also has its own energy field. It's like its own thing, and your frequency rising up most often will start affecting your partner's frequency.
Absolutely. So maybe let's talk to everybody about the transformation that happened when we were connecting to the galactics, the frequency that they gave us access to, how we healed our pain and trauma, how we kind of figured out the process of shifting our reality, how Costa Rica came into effect.
And how it actually affected the relationship. So before the spiritual awakening, we were just a very normal couple. So normal arguments, normal. But bear in mind, that's what Matrix tells us is normal. It's normal to argue.
Stress is normal.
It's normal to stress.
Pressure is normal.
It's normal to guilt trip one another. It's normal to blame one another. And then all of a sudden, this new frequency comes along. And at that time, as we spiritual awakening, for us, it wasn't just a time of spiritual awakening. It was also a time of a huge business failure that happened to us in our previous 3D business, and a lot of trauma with false accusations, with court case, with an ex-business partner. It was just stressful beyond belief.
Oh, it was horrendous.
But then what happened is we started doing inner work in these very, very hostile conditions, in this under pressure. So that's maybe another takeaway from you. Don't wait for the perfect time to do inner work. If things are presenting in your reality that are exactly like that, shitty things happening, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationship, whether it's arguments, where things are happening that are less than desirable, these triggers mean that there is something to work on. And this is exactly what we did.
Absolutely. And, I think when I look back, I call that our greater awakening moment. And it's one of those things, it's almost as if, and how it looks to my consciousness, I think on a personal journey, the universe had kind of been nudging me. There was the first awakening, if you like, when I was 26 years ago. And then that's the path I should have been on when that came online, but I couldn't control it. And it's almost like I got these nudges from the universe moving forward. And I was like, no. I was very much 3D back then. So it was all about building a business. It was all about building a life. just kind of, moving forwards and doing the things that the system taught me that I should be doing. And I was very much into that. And I was like, look, okay, I'm not listening. And eventually it took the universe. It was literally like a punch in the mouth from the universe, where it's like, look, over you come. This is what you should have been doing for a long time. And then that severe amount of pain, trauma, that situation, which was horrendous. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It was really, really awful. But the most difficult moment of our lives to that point brought about bringing us into alignment, which is what we should have been doing to begin with. So, for us, the journey was, it was quite eventful to get to where we are now, but it doesn't have to be that eventful. But I guess what was beautiful as well is even going through those really difficult times, there wasn't one time, we were talking about this morning, there wasn't one time that either of us blamed one another.
Because we've lost everything material, we've lost our investment portfolio, we've made bad business decisions, basically. We've made naive, stupid business decisions that cost us everything. And that, after awakening, that was the first step. Not blame each other for it. You've made a decision, you shouldn't have aligned with that person, or you shouldn't have made that. You
trusted the wrong people, you took the wrong advice. There was never any of that. We just supported each other.
So we decided, okay, we got ourselves in this hole together.
We're going to get out.
We're going to get out of this hole together too. So no matter what you are now navigating with your partner, if you have this attitude that wherever we are at, we can get out of this together, you will. You can. If you want to get out on your own, of course, it's also possible. It's also, it's an option, but you don't have to. And I think our message is that, good partnerships are not always ready-made. It's not always just manifesting the ideal partner. So whether you are single and you're getting into a relationship, or whether you've been together for a long time, things can improve. And for us, the single biggest improvement was all that inner work, which we called advanced shadow work. So what were we doing to get to a point where we really don't argue, where we kind of listen to one another and do all these things that people talk about when they talk about conscious couples, or when they talk about, how things should be. It just happened naturally as a result of the work we did kind of together, but everybody worked on their own energy field. So first of all, we started by working with galactic frequency, which we pioneered at the time. We mentioned connecting to the Arcturians. This was something that nobody taught us, no human taught us, Arcturians taught us. When we first started connecting to the Arcturians regularly, they gave us, to start with, 4 different codes or upgrades: codes of courage, codes of protection, codes of inner healing, and I think there was something around abundance. These 4, they were 4. And the biggest impact was those codes of inner healing, which we have since nicknamed codes of bitter medicine. And some of you may be familiar with it. Maybe you've worked with this frequency. Maybe you've participated in Transcending Dimensions in previous years. These are our kind of
unique, really.
Yeah, there's a unique process. So what do codes of bitter medicine do? So bear in mind, this is happening in real life. It's like 2020. We just lost a business. Things are just going completely pear-shaped. Everything is being
The world is going pear-shaped at that point.
Yeah, well, the world going pear-shaped was also like the cause that our business went pear-shaped, but that's a different story. When that happened, Gina says here that, yes to cause of bitter medicine.
Yes, exactly. I tell you what, we'll talk to you about this now, but I tell you, anybody who has received the codes of bitter medicine and gone through the emotional purge, which we'll talk about in a second, if you went in and just said to them, codes of bitter medicine, they would look and go,
Although what is really interesting is that some people became almost connoisseurs of these frequencies and just keep going with it. But anyway, let's explain what codes of bitter medicine are. So they are the frequency to bring up all the pain and trauma stored in your body. So, like when people, in a standard way, sometimes that shadow work or inner work feels like it takes ages. it goes very slow and doesn't change much, or like changes are very small. Codes of bitter medicine bring about rapid release and rapid changes. And basically, when we first started downloading it, we didn't know how it's going to work. Okay, inner healing sounds nice, right? Oh my goodness me. And we didn't know what hit us next, because all the bad memories start floating about, and all happens to resolve that pain and trauma, to resolve these patterns. So this is one massive aspect, codes of bitter medicine and healing our own pain and trauma. And by the way, when we talk about pain and trauma, guys, my important message to you is people talk about inner child healing all the time. But maybe your childhood wasn't that bad. Mine wasn't. Maybe your childhood was bad. And then, yes, you have inner child healing. But in my experience, a lot of our pain and trauma doesn't just happen when we're young. It happens when we're adults. When we start work, maybe we get to a bad partnership, talking about relationships. How much pain and trauma you've had from your previous marriage?
Goodness me. And not just that, I had a lot of pain and trauma, yes, around my childhood, relationship with my father, which emotionally was non-existent. Then I had a lot of anger within me, layers and layers of anger, treating people really well and then being betrayed, or people taking kindness as weakness, stealing from me, betraying me, backstabbing me through my life, and various situations layering that in. So it's not just healing your inner child, it's healing your past self, basically.
And by the way, that past self could be past self from 3 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Because like I give you an example. I've done all my inner work, but for example, 5 months ago, I had quite a serious accident. I broke my foot. Very interesting story, but for another day, I've shared it. And I had to heal that pain and trauma right after it happened, because I had flashbacks of falling down a cliff 10 meters down. So things like that can be recent. So don't think that it's like just the childhood, because you may have experienced a lot of pain as an adult. And that's actually absolutely normal. So you may need to address that. But let's go deeper, because there was another very, very massive breakthrough in our relationship. It was when we started doing ancestral work.
So just one final point on the codes of bitter medicine, because it's really important and it sort of ends that particular topic nicely. Is how much time that actually saves you when it comes to shadow work, because there's different methods of doing shadow work. I call it, you've got the traditional way of doing it, which I call the analog way. And effectively, this is where you journal, you go through every situation, go back to every situation that's hurt you, you heal each situation one by one. That's a process. The codes of bitter medicine is like the quantum modern digital way of doing it, if you want to think of it like that. And it condenses somebody's healing journey, emotional healing journey, cleans the body completely, and it condenses that into a few short months. So it's a massive time saver. But
then another thing with this is that it's not just about getting rid of pain and trauma, because it's also about resolving energetic patterns that go with it. Because if you've been through pain, if you've been through trauma, apart from this actually hurting you, it would have always left some kind of energetic patterns in your field, because your energy field is trying to protect you. So let's say you have, for example, our example was business failure. If let's say there was a business failure in your experience, the pattern that it may leave is, don't go running your own business. It's not safe to have your own company. It's safer to be employed. Or it could be the other way around, maybe. Maybe you've been fired from your job and that hurt and it was unjust or something like that. And then it kind of relieves a different kind of trauma, where perhaps you're scared of organizations or something like that. So apart from the actual pain and trauma of whatever event or process you've been through, there's also energetic patterns to resolve. And this is actually the core of our work. But these patterns go deeper than just your own life, because some patterns started at birth, some started way before you were born with your ancestors. And this was another layer of work that we've done together that have really transformed our relationship and there's something very interesting we've noticed, is that those patterns, ancestral patterns, even if you and your partner don't feel like a perfect match, your patterns become a perfect match. Your triggers become a perfect match. So, for example, Aeron's had a pattern around losing money in his family, or things going away, being very volatile. My pattern was scarcity and frugality to the nth degree, coming from a communist country and from ancestors who've been through both world wars, and everything was just squirreling away. So if Aeron was very kind of like, let's say, forward with like, let's live for today and worry about tomorrow.
You were like, let's save for tomorrow.
Let's save for tomorrow. So it's like, you know, and by the way, none of these patterns are good, right? Extreme kind of like irresponsibility is no good, and neither is kind of hoarding and squirreling. There is always some kind of golden middle. But it could be something else. It could be that, you know, I don't know, it could be a pattern of addiction from one person and a pattern of being the person receiving end of the addiction from the other. These patterns will literally trigger one another ancestrally. And you will see it in a lot of depth and in a lot of detail. And it's almost like when you know that moment where you don't want to be like your parents, or you don't want to be like your grandparents, and then you realize that you're more like them that you think. For example, my father was a very critical father. He was a good dad in a way that he provided for me. There was definitely love, but my dad had this kind of crazy theory that the higher he will kick me up the butt, the higher I will fly, which means criticize me, you know, not physical violence, because there was no physical violence in my family, but it was just extreme criticism to motivate me to be better. I don't know anybody perhaps from Southeast Asia or Eastern Europe, or maybe some Latino countries, you probably relate with that style of parenting, where they just like, you know, you go get an A from school, or we had 5s and 6s in Poland. Why it's a 5? Why is it not a 6? You know, it's like, why is it not better? So,
but actually had the opposite effect on you, didn't it?
Yes, and then what happened is I've become extremely critical of you, and I carried this, but for you it was the other way kind of round, which is you come from a family pattern of extreme stubbornness. So to tell you what to do, to criticize you, is like the worst thing that can happen. So these patterns, until they resolve, they're just running the show. So you think it's just me and you in this relationship, but all of a sudden we have my grandpa, my grandma, your grandpa and your grandma, and your father and my father running the show, because it's their pattern. So in this way, ancestral healing, which by the way is not what people think, it's not some kind of ritualistic thing, although you can add some layers of ritual if you want to honor your ancestors this way. But it's actually understanding what they've been through, what shaped them to be the way they are, and to see how past events from ancestry affect you today. So why was my dad critical in the first place? There was reasons. You know, why was your dad the way he was? There was reasons. And once you uncover those reasons, you release those patterns, you stop carrying the weight. So then you are really in your relationship, just the two of you. Two loving souls, not you carrying a burden of 5 generations who probably have not been through the easiest kind of stuff out there, and create a lot of dysfunctional patterns. So this is another layer of this process that I think one of the really most impactful ones.
And then, you know, when you've got patterns in your field, they call in a certain version of reality. And how many people resonate here that when you're experiencing patterns, sometimes it's like living life in a loop where the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. These are called in by patterns within the field. We've spoken about ancestral, but there's also karmic patterns. This is what you inherit from your experiences in a past life. But the beautiful thing about the energetic field is nothing is set in stone. Everything can be rewired. Everything can be changed. That's the beauty of it. It's like the cabling. Like, you know, if I think the hero of my life, right, is energy. right? The hero of my life, apart from my wife, is energy. And even back before my sweetheart, even before my awakening, right? I worked as an electrical contractor in construction. And so I've always worked with energy. But if you know, I like analogies because analogies paint a picture paints 1,000 words. It's easy. This is how my mind works. When you think about your energetic field, think of it like rewiring a house. So when you've got your house, your electrical system, which is the energetic system within your house, that's not, okay, well, this is how it is, we can never change it. You can completely change your electrical system. You can completely change the wiring in your energetic field. It's all reworkable. This is the beauty of it.
And if we use the same analogy, yes, it will create a mess. We've been through a lot of rewires when we work in construction, and it's always a mess when you're doing chases in the walls and stuff like that.
Oh, God,
however, you know what's really good? It's exactly like what's well done electrical rewire is like well done energetic rewire. It's one and done. Good electrical installation lasts around 80 years. That's the lifespan of a copper cable. Mm-hmm. Good, well done energetic work is actually going to last. It's going to outlast you. It's going to last not just for your soul, but it's also going to outlast you.
It's outlast this lifetime.
This lifetime will work also for the future generations. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is that even if it's just the first person, one person in the couple that starts this, if you resolve your ancestral patterns, if you resolve your karmic patterns, if you stop walking wounded, basically, if you stop running on autopilot, then you probably get different reactions from your partner. Because if you stop engaging with the lower vibrations, because that's, the patterns, this is just the legacy of 3D. Mm-hmm. That's legacy of life on this planet, which is less than ideal. There's so many dysfunctional systems that then bleed into families, bleed into relationships. Only takes one person to transform a couple, but also transform parenting, transform maybe your relationship with your parents. It just takes one person to start doing the work. So it's not about looking how do we change our partner, how do we manifest the ideal partner. You become the best partner you can be.
Be the energetic hero of your family. How about that? Think of it, frame it like that, right? Be the energetic hero of your family, because if you start doing the work and you start to work on yourself and transform your energetic signature, remember we mentioned osmosis before. It's like your new energetic signature is going to start to have an effect on your loved ones and your family by osmosis. So if you really want to speed up your partner's awakening, start to do the work yourself, and you will start to influence your partner on a frequency level, and they won't even know it.
And on the other side, and if you have done the work and you single, mm-hmm. you start manifesting a totally different partner. You stop kind of, and we've had a lot of we had a lot of beautiful love stories across the years in our program Transcending Dimensions, where people have been, love wasn't even on their agenda. We've had people who have found out on a Christmas day that the partner was cheating on them, and the whole many years marriage has gone to kind of down south. We've had lots of dramatic beginnings of the story. But the endings were always beautiful endings. So very often it was that they have done the work and all of a sudden someone totally different manifested in their reality. Not the kind of person that they would normally attract, that would normally cause them pain, because that was the programs running it, right? You attracting maybe the kind of person that your programs are manifesting, that all this conditioning is manifesting. All of a sudden you clear those programs and a different type of person relates to you, not the kind of person that creates a dysfunctional kind of like a trauma bond with you. So this is basically the effects of the work.
Relationships is one thing, right? Mm-hmm. That's one area of your life, but doing this work transforms every single area of your life. For us, when we started doing the work and our frequency changed in a sufficient way, Costa Rica came out of nowhere. We were in Australia at the time. We mentioned Uluru and the road trips and all of this kind of stuff. That wasn't even on our horizon. And all of a sudden, within 2 months, we packed up and we were literally flying to Costa Rica, and we've been here since, and it's been the best thing that's ever been. It's such a high vibrational place. But we probably weren't even, before we'd done the work, even in resonance with Costa Rica. So we can talk about your career, we can talk about your finances, we can talk about where you live, we can talk about your expression, your relationships. Frequency has an impact on every single area of your life. So when you do this work, get ready for change, because your life is going to transform as if by magic.
And I think also what then happens is when you do the inner work, when you do all of these things that we've just named, what happens is your relationships naturally improve. The ones that are not meant to be fall away. Like Tina here says, the more I heal, the more the shadows and the people around me are exposed and try to derail my progress, strengthening my sovereignty. So that can happen too. That certain people will fall away because they will not match your frequency. Mm-hmm. But then certain others will come to your reality. But that's on the kind of people level. But then also when it comes to, let's say, couple level, if you both do work together, and again, we've had some beautiful examples throughout the years of families, partnerships, couples, sometimes siblings doing this work. It really kind of helps in other aspects, and that then feeds back into a good relationship. Because, for example, if you stop having financial worries, or if you stop having stresses at work because you're not calling in a certain reality of, I don't know, bullying or jealousy or whatever else that you kind of have been calling in your career or even calling in your finances, when that goes away, there is less strain on your relationship, because perhaps you find so much fulfillment in your work. Maybe your finances are so much better, then it then doesn't bleed into relationships. So basically the kind of the summary of it is you do your own inner work and everything transforms. And if you are interested in doing the exact type of this inner work that we've just mentioned, we would love
replicating our personal process of transformation, then, like I say, we've got something. We
would love to invite you on board of Transcending Dimensions 2026, which will follow this process. For those of you who are on YouTube, we can show you on slides what this process looks like in brief. But actually, have we got slides? No, we just talked to you about it. Hang on, because I'm messing with the tech here and it's not going well. Let's just go back to how we work.
To the camera.
Yeah, let's just talk to you about that, because people on TikTok and Insta,
we know the process off by heart.
We've run it for 5 years. So as soon as we've come out of our journey of transformation, we were blown away by how everything improved. Our finances, our career, our relationship, our health. Aeron's lost some 25 kilos in the process of pain and trauma.
I was 100, honestly, I was like between 106 kilos and 110 kilos. I used to go to the gym, try and eat quite regularly, but because I was full of pain and trauma, now I just want to be clear.
This is not a claim.
This isn't, I'm not claiming that healing your pain and trauma is that you're going to lose weight. But one of the things that I notice, and one of the things that I notice with people that I work with, that when you start to shed the pain and trauma from the body, it's almost like the frequency of the body increases. And I'm not sure whether body weight has a certain density, and when your frequency increases, that starts to fall away.
Obviously it doesn't happen when you're in a good body weight, but if it's excess weight. So
absolutely. That's one of the things I noticed through healing my pain and trauma, was the weight just dropped off.
So basically health improved, relationships improved, finances improved, happiness improved. So well, congrats on reaching the other side of Healing Crucible. It is possible. I must say, when you're in it, Tina, and I can hear and see between the lines that you probably are where we were, when you're in the thick of it, you feel like there is no at the end. Where does it end? You start seeing a pattern.
I promise you it gets better.
It gets better. Do you know how it's been shown to us in the process that we've been through? It's been shown to us that how it happens is the biggest stuff. When you follow at least the methodology that we've used, which we'll be more than happy to to share with you, is that first there is a curve, and we've seen that curve in our process, and we've seen that curve in Transcending Dimensions participants process. So what comes first is the biggest, most obvious stuff, the big programs, the big stuff, like your likes of your betrayals, big kind of money programs, big imprints, etc. You see massive, like the thick stuff, the like really important blocks, they come first. Then it gets to a point which, when we were going through this process, it was represented to Aeron as a lot of big stuff got unloaded from the conveyor belt, and there was only small ones left. But there is third layer to it. You get to so-called bedrock, or as we call them, meta patterns. When you strip so much, the layers that you wouldn't have even seen underneath become available. Beyond that, things are starting to be wonderful. And actually, every clearing, every pattern you release, it never, ever repeats itself. In fact, when you go through this journey and you do this work in a very targeted way, which is exactly what Transcending Dimensions do, you even forget about the patterns we've had. That's why it's very difficult for us sometimes to even come and remember the case studies from our client sessions, or from people we work with, or from even our own life, because you really forget, because you're on a different frequency. It's almost like you leave it behind and it's one and done. So the way we advocate the healing, the spiritual kind of clearing journey, is that you just do it once and you don't do it again. You don't keep repeating. You don't keep like ritualizing that. It's like done and dusted, and you move on. And this is exactly what Transcending Dimensions journey does. So basically, we take you through first the process of clearing. Then we take you, it's like a square root sign, go down, process of clearing, all these layers. Then we get the galactic upgrades to build you up. And then we do the most important thing, stabilize the frequency. So you don't have to constantly raise your vibration. You just simply stabilize your frequency. So it's a 6-month process, very, very thorough. We're just taking enrollment now. We're starting in March, but it takes some time to have a conversation with every participant and to onboard you. So we invite you, if you want to do your own inner work in a very targeted, efficient way under our guidance and using galactic technologies, that's what you do.
But one of the things I want to point out here, which is kind of crucial, really, this is more than a healing program, because healing and clearing the energetic field is just one aspect of this. So the first 2 months is where we do all the heavy lifting. This is where we clear out the field of all of that inherited energetic clutter, and that's inherited pain and trauma from situations, the karmic patterns, the ancestral patterns. Work with the nervous system. We do work with discordant and distorted subconscious programming, because a lot of you will have distorted subconscious programming, which is limiting. And distorted subconscious programming gives you your perception creates your reality. So this is really, really deep work that we do in the first 2 months. The second part of the program, over 2 months, is where we're building you up and we're building your frequency up. Okay, you found the slide.
I found the slide.
So what we're doing within month 3 and 4, this is where we're building up the frequency. So we've cleared the decks, healed your pain and trauma. Don't get me wrong, this is a challenging time emotionally, but it's something we have to do at the beginning of the program. But it's not something that goes on for forever. We all support one another through this. We have done every single year. When we've done all of the heavy lifting and we've cleared the field, then what we do is to start to build up your frequency in month 3 and month 4. This is where we start to teach you how to channel frequency, how to interpret the field. Riya will be activating all of your light languages and other spiritual abilities. I will be teaching you how to read your past lives and read your terrestrial and extraterrestrial past lives in the Galactic Hall of Records and the Terrestrial Hall of Records. I'll also be teaching you and showing you how to neutralize karma from the karmic field of energy. And if you're thinking, wow, this sounds phenomenal, but I'm not sure that I can do it, I want to reassure you that as somebody who's done this hundreds and hundreds of times with many, many people, if you've got a soul, a consciousness, and a pineal gland, you've got all of the equipment you've been born with to be able to do this. You've got access to the same stuff within the field. It's just you need to be shown how to operate your equipment. So that's what we do in the stage 2, which is where we're really building this up. And then we get to month 5 and month 6, called the embodiment. Now, the embodiment's important because when you get to the end of month 4, your frequency signature has changed. And it's changed in a sufficient way that the universe is going to start to send you a new reality. So your reality physically is going to start to change. There's going to be people and situations that start to drift off because they're not in resonance anymore. And there's going to be new things which start to drop in, new opportunities. Your income's going to increase. Your health's going to increase. It's going to start to get really good. So why do we do the embodiment? Well, what we don't want there to be like a yo-yoing effect where things start to get really good and all of a sudden that reality falls away and it feels like you're coming backwards. And then it gets good and then you come backwards because it leads to frustration. So what we want is there to be long-lasting, permanent results. We want to expand into that new reality. So what we do is deep work around the nervous system. We work around money frequency and money energy. We do a lot of work to expand into and to be able to hold the frequency of that new timeline that's coming in. And then by the end, we teach total energetic mastery. We teach a load of things within this. And by the end of it, you're starting to live your life through your heart's true desire, which is alignment, which is full abundance, joy, happiness, and bliss.
And flow.
And flow. So by the end of the 6 months, it is a massive transformation. So we've talked about healing and clearing the field. That's only 1/3 of this program. There's so much in this program based on our personal journey of transformation. We could have run this over 12 months. But the reason that we don't do it over 12 months is because when people are going through a process of healing pain and trauma, which we have to do at the beginning, or that's when all the insecurities and everything starts to come out.
We don't want to drag it for too long.
We want people to be able to see the finishing line. So 6 months is a perfect amount of time for us to do what we need to do, but it's not too long.
And the tools are there for lifetime.
Absolutely.
So if you're interested, or on TikTok, you can explore our bios.
If you go,
I'm gonna skip all the reviews because you can read them on the website.
Them on the website. There's just so many of them. But if you want to, if you're feeling called to join Transcending Dimensions, I want to extend an invitation and explain how this works, right? We're starting in March. Now you can go to the website and you can see what's involved in it if you wanted to find out some more information, but I'm just going to put it together nicely in it, like in a nutshell for you. We're going to start in March for 6 months. It'll end at the end of August, which is great. In order to enroll onto this program, which is deep work, it'll be me speaking to you. I need to speak to you personally on a call. And the reason for that, number one, it's important that you feel into us because there's got to be a lot of trust. The whole process is sacred and we'll be working really deeply with each other. And it'll be myself and it'll be Riya that's working with you for 6 months. So it's really important that there's energetic synergy. And also we need to make sure that the timing is right and make sure that the program's in resonance with you and things like that. So I'll speak to you on what's called an enrollment consultation. That'll last about 40 to 45 minutes. You'll be able to do that if you go to the link in my bio on TikTok. If you come across here, we'll explain on YouTube and Instagram how you can do that. Now, there's an important thing that I want to point out because there's no surprises. There's an enrollment questionnaire, okay, that you would need to fill in, okay? And that's about 4 or 5 questions. It'll take you 4 or 5 minutes to book an enrollment consultation. There's a fully refundable fee of $222 US. And let me tell you why that is for full transparency. We've got a lot of followers on social media. And if we just open this up, anybody potentially interested, come and have a conversation, our diary would just blow out. And I've only got so many call spots available. So I just want to make sure that I'm speaking to people who are potentially interested in moving forwards and not just I would chat to everybody if I had unlimited spots, but I don't. I do talk
That's
to
what he does on real life.
Honestly, I could talk to all of you and I'd welcome you all, but I've only got so many spots. So what we do is if people are seriously resonating with the frequency of the program, they want to have a conversation about seeing how it's going to work, pay the $222, book the enrollment consultation. So how is it fully refundable? So if we've had a conversation, you feel it's in resonance, you'd like to go forward, we have extended payment plans, and it's definitely something that's manageable for everybody. what I would say is then that the 222 is fully refundable. You get it back as a credit off the first payment. So the first payment is far lower. And then, like I say, you get the 222 back. If it's not in resonance for whatever reason, or the timing isn't right, or you've got other things on, as soon as that conversation has taken place, what then happens is immediately we refund you the 222. So you get it back either way, but all it just means that I'm speaking to people next week that are potentially interested in moving forwards and kind of not just ringing for a chat just because of the limited spots. That's all. So as I announced this yesterday, and on a training that I did, I let people know about it. Already the call spots are booking up for next week. The earliest I'm going to be able to speak to you is from Monday. If you're interested, then there's a QR code, which is on the screen here. You can go ahead. I've put it on Linktree on TikTok. So if you just go to the link in my bio, tap that.
Same
Transcending
with Instagram.
Dimensions is at the top. It'll take you through to the website with all the information. It'll say enroll now. Click that and it'll take you through to the form. And I look forward to speaking to you. And
on IG, you go to Beacons, also link in the bio. So you can either, and if you don't know any of this QR codes and you're still interested, drop us a message on any of the social media platforms, or if you know the email address that we normally send you emails, just respond to an email, say, hey, I'm interested in Transcending Dimensions. What's the next step? You can read all the reviews on the website. We've already had 5 rounds of it. We run this program once a year, only once a year. We love it so much, but it's like the Syrian star seeds, beautifully intense.
Do you know which is amazing though? It's because why we love it so much is because we get to guide people through the exact process that we went through personally. So it's and again, another thing that I just want to point out, which is quite important, is that we took a conscious decision a long time ago that there's sort of a school of thought within the spiritual space when you've got a lot of people that you work with, that people would think, okay, well, if we can
scale the business.
Yeah, if we can run more transcendent dimensions, we can help more people, and we can kind of help people at scale, and we would end up training coaches, and it's coach the coach. And so when people come into our program, they're working with our coaches. We don't work like that. So the people that you are going to be guided by for this 6 months is myself and it's Riya personally. We don't do coach the coach. It's us personally taking you through.
However, what happens is that our graduates, people who have been through this process, who have embodied this, they take these tools on board. And you, if you want to go through this process and take those tools on board, incorporate them to your practice. Maybe you are a coach. Maybe you are a practitioner. Maybe you are even a psychologist and doing some mainstream kind of work. Or maybe you just want to teach your family and friends some ancestral work, etc. That happens every year. It's not like, we haven't got, yes, it's our own methodology. Nobody taught us that, but it's not like we've got IP on galactic codes and codes of bitter medicine. Once you've been through this process, you kind of initiate it, go ahead. You can teach it yourself.
Absolutely.
You can use it with your own clients and do it this way.
Also, on the subject of relationships and love, okay, and I just want to put this out there, and we've had this in previous years, when it comes to the enrollment into the program, you'll be given a login, and you'll be given, because everything's online, it's all live, by the way. So there's the stuff that when we've completed each session live is recorded, and you've got access to the recordings, but everything is done live through this. So it's not like access to a pre-recorded program. This is live for the next 6 months. Where you're going to get a login to take part and to participate. But then with that login, if you've got a partner, and you've got somebody that you want to go through this process with,
but it needs to be kind of a family member or member of a household. So Absolutely. It's not like a friend from another country.
If it's a couple or whatever, but then in a way the program becomes 2 for 1, doesn't it? Because again, it's one login, but there's 2 people participating, and there's one fee.
So as long as those people are both there out of their own free will. So your partner is welcome to come along, because we remember when we used to, whatever kind of courses, programs we used to do, everything cost us double. And we thought, come on, it's not really that kind of fair.
We've even had people who have said to us previously, they wanted their partner to come on, and they were messaging saying, look, do you mind if My partner takes part in the coaching and stuff as well. And, you know, how much would you want for that? We're like, look, you know, just there's one login as far as we're concerned. As long as you're in a relationship or it's a family member and there's consent there, then come along, it's fine.
And it actually helps the process.
No, there's got to be I said, look, no, the energetic exchange is fine. It's literally, if the family member is there, then that's absolutely fine with us. So again, that's an open invitation as well.
Absolutely, because I must say it does, like spotting, acknowledging, seeing energetic patterns does get way easier when you've got someone to bounce it with. Now, what we do is inside Transcending Dimensions, we've got coaching calls. That's what we do. You bounce those things. Maybe you see that there is a stubborn block in your life. I don't know if it's finances, if it's relationships, history repeating itself. You don't understand what's happening, why it's happening, but it's happening. And we try to connect it to where does it come from, ancestrally, karmically, etc. Well, we there to connect those dots for you. But obviously, if you're doing it in partnerships, things happen way quicker, because apart from the programs we identify on coaching calls, you probably in between also see some kind of patterns in one another that you can release, that you can kind of work through. So we invite you wholeheartedly on board of Transcending Dimensions. If you don't know where to find it, message us. We've got a team of VAs. Also, we are active across all social media platforms. Drop us a message, say, I'm interested in Transcending Dimensions. We point you to the next step. Other than that,
I look forward to speaking to you next week. Like I say, I announced it yesterday off the back of the training, and the call spots are starting to book up for next week. But I have got some availability. Go check the calendar. But if you kind of resonating, then just go and grab an available spot before it gets taken. That's all I would say.
One more thing is that Transcending Dimensions is an energetic body.
You'll feel it. Like if this program is in resonance, Transcending Dimensions gets more powerful every year, and it resonates within the field. It's got its own frequency, and a big part of that is healing. If it's what we're saying to you is resonating with you, you're feeling the resonance of that program, I would just encourage you to book a call. Like I say, it's completely risk-free. If it's not, the timing isn't right, or, you know, like I say, it's just not something that you want to do this year, immediately that's refundable straight back to you. And if you want to move forward, then 222 comes off the first payment, the extended payment plan.
But also what I wanted to say about this program is that the frequency itself changes, changes you. The frequency itself affects you, affects your energy field. So some of the work, yes, it is conscious shadow work. It is kind of conscious ancestral work. It's a conscious karmic work. We teach you consciously the process. But the frequency of a program itself amplifies the process. Usually as soon as people actually decide to even book an enrollment consultation, things start already shifting, stirring in the energy field, and that changes that. So we will love you and leave you, because we've got a dinner dance to attend tomorrow. We do.
We have actually. It's we've got a Valentine's Day dinner dance that we're going to tomorrow evening.
I don't know whether we disappeared now behind this, so maybe
Don't worry. But thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great to hang out with you.
Have a bit of a more informal chat, and we'll see you on the next opportunities. Bye bye.